Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good now to those of you who may be out there in LinkedIn land, in YouTube land, possibly in X/Twitter, wherever you happen to be, whenever you happen to be there. My name is Ryan Erickson, and I am so happy to have two of my most favorite people on LinkedIn to listen to and to watch and to be around. And I will introduce you to them in a moment as I get my setup here. That would be first, we'll go with Kyle. Kyle, hello. Hello, are you in there? Hi. Okay, Kyle's raising his hand. He's being silent. So Kyle Griffin Aretae. So maybe we may be going to that a little bit if you want to talk about that. And the inimitable, awesome, and wonderful Cliff Berg. Hello. Ah, Cliff, live long and prosper.
This was a gift.
Peace and long life to you. Organic. So, all right. I love. See, I don't have any awesome coffee cups here either. Well, I do kind of, but nothing like yours. So, the rules of this game are very simple. I'll ask a question or two. I think I won't give the whole thing away. I'll say which one do you want to answer. You can blow and blast in on the first question if you want, and just kind of go from there, or I can ask another question. Those are pretty much the rules of the game.
I don't like, I'll just spit at my screen.
You spit at your screen, and I've never had anyone just kind of check out or opt out. You could opt out if you want, but just you could put spittle on your mic. You can bring up whatever. Okay, so we'll start here. Which one of you wants to go first?
Kyle. I want Kyle to go.
Kyle wants to go first. So Kyle, question one,
Kyle.
And you're voluntolding him. Question one or question two? Which would you like?
Door number one.
Question one.
Question one is, if in the traditional McCarthy check-in, mad, glad, sad, and afraid, which one or more of those? Feel free to go with that. What are you mad, glad, sad, and or afraid about in the moment?
About. Is this related to our domain or like in the universe?
This is universal.
Okay, go ahead, Kyle. I'm sorry to interrupt.
I'm between jobs. I'm kind of annoyed by that right now. I'd rather be doing some work to help somebody with something.
Are you mad, glad, sad, or afraid about that? Maybe that's all of the above?
Sad.
Okay, sad about that. That's cool. Do you want to go further with that or give Cliff question number two?
Go ahead, Cliff.
All right. Well, I just want to say, before you come up with the question, that I think I've been laid off in my career. I have a long career, and I think I was laid off 3 times. And each time, it was the best time of my life and the best thing that ever happened to me. So enjoy.
It's kind of weird. I've been tech consulting for 25 years, and I've applied and I've been hired by application like twice. And the rest of the time people call me.
Same here.
And so being between work when the economy is down and you're getting less calls is when, gosh, I don't do resumes and things like that. People who know me call me and I help.
Yeah. Same here. I have never, ever, even once got a job by applying. Never. I have never applied and gotten a job as a result. Every single job I've had in my entire career, including when I was landscaping in college, every single job has always been someone reaching out to me or a referral or something. Every single applications I've sent always went nowhere.
I think I can beat that. I think I've done 2 in 25 years where I applied. The rest, and most of those were talking to somebody, right? I reach out, I talk to somebody, and I get aligned with a person who is somehow connected and somehow bypass the normal process by real human connection.
Yeah.
And yeah, normal process hiring is nonsense.
Yeah. Or commodity.
Right? I'm suspicious of whether it works for anybody ever. Right?
And especially now, the pray and spray thing on Indeed and LinkedIn Easy Apply. Sorry, LinkedIn, it's kind of broken this system. I think it's anyway. I'm in a different place. I kind of entered into a large company in 1998. I was bought and sold a few times, and then in 2018, I was kicked out. And
so you're free. You're free.
But I am free. I'm free as a bird at this point. And I am also in Kyle's domain, looking for work, looking for people to jam with and play with and give some purple to. So we can talk about hiring and what you think about hiring right now, if you want to just go into that, or Cliff, if you want to answer the other question.
What is it? Let's tell us.
The other question, you can opt in, opt out. We can go from there. Is where in the universe is your curiosity right now?
You don't want to
know. Okay. I definitely do.
I've read all these books, and most of them would bore most people to tears. Really, I read abstract algebra for fun.
Abstract algebra was my favorite class in college.
What?
Abstract algebra was my favorite class in college.
It's friggin' amazing. I mean, all of physics is built on it. But most people aren't interested in that. So, in terms of what else is interesting, I think, just trying to understand things. I think, I don't get it when people say they're bored. I don't understand that. I've never felt that. I don't understand the phenomenon of boredom. I don't get it. I wish there were more time. I wish there were more hours in the day. There's just so many interesting things, and the past few years, I've come to appreciate like the physical world. Before that, I would say it's like my wife put flowers in the kitchen, and I didn't notice them. And did we lose anybody?
No, I'm here. Okay. I wanted to hear this. I wanted to give you focus. No, you're not boring anybody.
This is funny. My wife put flowers. She's always putting flowers in the kitchen. I don't notice them. And I said, look, I'm sorry, but when I see flowers, I see polysaccharides and amino acids. I don't see the flowers. And she looked at me, rolled her eyes. But the past few years, I've come to really appreciate like the physical world. Like when I drive to a Starbucks every day, because I take my laptop there. I like being around people as long as they don't talk to me. And, because I'm an introvert, but I like being around people, kind of contradictory. But which I think might be a mental illness, the cognitive dissonance there. But on the way, there's a beautiful ride with trees arching over the road and everything. And it puts me in this Zen mood just looking at these trees. And it's so magnificent. It's so I've had to reread biochemistry because one of our clients is a research institute, is medical research. And, and seeing how unbelievably complex cells are and organisms. It's mind-boggling how complex things are. And this magnificent landscape and the kinds of plants, it's staggering. It's staggering, and just appreciating it and appreciating the beauty, but also the complexity and magnificence of it. And so I just find it all so interesting, everything. I don't know if that answers your question, but maybe it's some kind of answer for me.
Well, it's definitely an answer. I mean, it's one of those transcendental kind of things. It's beauty. Nature is beautiful. Yeah. I remember when I came back from Charlotte to Cincinnati, where I am now, Driving through the Appalachians and the Blue Ridge Mountains and around Asheville in the fall, it is breathtaking. It's
Yeah.
it's it's majestic that you just look at.
Yeah.
And taking a vacation in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. And we had an Airbnb in Pigeon Forge, in the place between Gatlinburg and in Pigeon Forge proper. There's this nice woods, and it's just so on the back porch of this Airbnb. You look out there in the quiet, just looking at the mountains and the colors. I mean, it's like all this stuff again. We're coding, making products, and that thing. When we're in it, it is nice to get a feel for the beauty and majesty of
It is.
nature, and just
And
being
when you
able
were
to-
sitting on that porch listening, did you suddenly hear ding 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 ding?
No, I did not. Every once in a while, I did get some. There was some rustling, and then down that there was a trailer in the ravine below us. That was maybe a little questionable, but no, I'm an early bird. I was up there 5:30 in the morning. It was just I was breathtaking. So
Do you wake
that's-
up early by alarm or just wake up?
Lately I wake up by cat.
Okay.
That's one thing. My alarm goes off at 4:30, so I get up and do that. I now have my routine together. I do Julia Cameron's morning pages, which I highly recommend, to kind of get the writing. Basically, like, again, if yourself is a musical instrument, you got to warm up in the morning. And like my first page and a half of writing is just crap, and then by the time I get halfway through, my brain's warmed up and I'm ready to get in and do whatever, and read and go on LinkedIn and maybe make a post or two or something like that.
Kyle, what do you do first thing
Yeah.
in the morning?
Stagger.
If you can
about.
tell us. If you can tell us.
You don't have to. This is an invitation.
I am very much unlike Ryan. If you leave me alone for a week, and people have left me alone for a week recently, if you leave me alone for a week, my natural body rhythms put me going to bed at dawn and waking up at noon.
You should move to Mars.
That's what happens every time in my life that I've had a week of no impact. Now
Or
I
a
have
musician.
5 kids.
You should be a musician.
But or a programmer, because those people do that kind of thing, right? My natural rhythms. I talk to my mom, and she has the same natural rhythm, right? Where you go to bed as the sun comes up, unless you have junk in the way that's preventing you from living on this natural, comfortable schedule.
Oh. Are you also in sync with like other women in your home?
My wife.
I'm gonna be careful here.
My wife has a
Emotionally.
different setup, and so it's more that when she is on vacation or she is doing something or I am on vacation without her, that's when my natural schedule drifts. And otherwise, we have to coordinate some and both live with less than ideal personal schedules in order to collaborate, because collaboration and actually spending time with the right people while you're both awake is a win.
People change on vacation. They have to adjust, like you said. I went on a vacation with my wife. We stayed with family, and she was acting kind of a little different. And then I discovered a couple weeks later, she confessed to me that she was on gummy bears the whole time.
Not too many of those awful things will happen. So this is actually a very interesting emote, because Cliff, you and I have talked about collaboration quite a bit in terms of the beauty of introversion, and that there's a magic for folks who do the deep work and who just don't generally dig being in this frantic kind of collaboration mode and drawing on the wall, which is my thing.
There's a place
And
for that.
exactly, there's
Yeah.
a place for and there's a place for that on the same team. And the same
Yeah.
group of folks. They're like the Who. It's one of my favorite bands. The Who. You've got Roger Daltrey, flinging their microphone. You've got Keith Moon, like the total basher. You got Pete Townsend mashing his guitars, and then John Entwistle, the bass player. He's just back here, but his fingers are going nuts. But he's there. So, and he never really sings. So, but our ensembles can be like that. Not everybody has to be Pete Townsend, and it's not about
Right.
he's the leader of the band or whatever. Now, so that's me. We kind of know where Cliff. I know you mentioned you're an introvert. I want to kind of have send it over to Kyle for a moment. We talked about ensemble programming. I think you did at one point, and I know that that's something that you dig and may want to talk about. I wonder what Cliff might have to say to your experience in ensemble.
That's probably the area that Cliff and I have talked most by text, and we're actually moderately friendly despite our baseline very different approaches. So the thing to pay attention to probably is that Cliff and I probably come from the same background, similar backgrounds, right? Anybody reading abstract algebra for fun is kind of in my zone, right? Right? I grew up with please leave me alone. You're in my way. I don't want you near me while I'm doing real work. Once I finish the real work, I'll talk to you.
Yeah.
And then we can collaborate, and mostly I can explain what I did so that you can catch up. And that's what I grew up with. I was a horrible kid like that. Having said that, in the last 20, 25 years, I have found that some collaborations, if done well, can be really effective together, even in technically deep areas. We're trying to prove something when we've got a proof and we're both collaborating. But it takes it takes a lot of configuration to make that good. And it takes some adaptation, and it takes some learning how to do it, right? And an awful lot of collaborations, including most pairings that I've seen in the wild, suck. They're just bad. That doesn't mean they're all bad, or that when experts get together to pair collaboratively on purpose, it's bad. But an awful lot of what people call pairing is junk. So like that was me laying out hey, I'm not very far from Cliff on this point necessarily. Right? Now.
Well said. I agree completely.
Good pairings, like I sit down and I collaborate with Llewellyn Falco writing code together. That's fun. We're good. He's an expert. I'm an expert. We can write code together on new stuff fast. He's seeing some things I'm not. I'm seeing some things he's not. And we're getting stuff done faster, better than either of us would have done solo. But Llewellyn's like one of the inventors of mob programming. I've been pair programming off and on for 25 years. So we have two people who've spent a lot of energy optimizing our code collaboration skills. We're both experts, both on code collaboration and on code. You know what? We can rock together. And we do.
You have respect for each other's mastery, and you know when to hang back. This is a great duo,
right?
And this is playing together.
You can't. I'm gonna play Ryan, even though I'm nowhere near competent in Ryan's area. you can't jam with somebody without serious technical skill jamming and serious skill learning how to jam with people. You can't do it. Right? And then it takes the finding the fluidity, and people like, I expect I could sit down with Cliff and we could collaborate on something really fast, pretty fluidly together, even though every time I talk to him, he says, yeah, every time I run into pairing, it sucks. Right?
Well, this is, and might I put the shibboleth in the room, is this is almost like self-organization. The two of you, let's say in a room, you're both masters, you have respect for each other, you know how you listen to each other, you watch what's happening, and that is that you don't need to have somebody telling you what to do. You are choosing that. And I think that's the musicality of it. And I believe that there are configurations where that can happen, but there are prerequisites to it. There is a sense of respect for one's mastery, knowing who you are and how you are, and being accepting of that. So with that, I don't know, Cliff, if you want to be contradictory to Kyle and me, or if you want to add some other spice to that.
No, I mean, people are different. I agree completely with what Kyle said. The thing is, people vary a lot. Like right now, my wife is having a conversation on her cell phone in another room, and it's distracting the heck out of me. But that's me. A lot of people it wouldn't bother them at all. Their focus is not fragile. My focus is very fragile. If like I'm thinking and then something happens over there, it kind of shatters my thoughts, but I had a friend in college, and when she was doing something, you could be screaming at her, Florence, Florence. And then after like 10 seconds, she'd look up and say, huh? Because her focus was so bulletproof, so people vary in that. And also people work differently, like coding. I actually don't code. I don't. I'll tell you what I do. When I create software, I don't write code. I design it. And this is me. People work differently. It's not like it's better. It's not better. It's just how I work. When I approach coding like I would approach designing a circuit, I identify the things, and then I define the algorithms that I need and the structures. And then I write those algorithms down in a word processor, and I annotate them, and I change fonts, and I try to make it as mathematical notation as I can. But I first do it in words. And then I sit back, and then I mentally walk through it and verify it. And when I've mentally verified it, I then translate that into code. And you know what? Doing that, I have never found a single bug. Even though no unit tests, I have never found a single bug. The only bugs I've ever found are in the glue code that link things together, because you're not going to do that for the main program, and you're going to do it for the complicated parts. And so when I write the other stuff, I write code directly. So I kind of lied. I do write code directly, but only for the glue stuff. For the hard parts, I don't code it. I first design it, and then I translate that. And for those parts, those modules, I have never found a single bug. But try to get anyone else to work like that. You won't. So if I were to pair with someone, they'd say, what the F are you doing? Get back to the keyboard. What about this? Let's do this. And I'd say, I just can't do that. Leave me alone. I'm in a word processor, and I'm diagramming. I can't do what you're doing. And so they would be frustrated, and they'd walk away and say, Cliff's not cooperating. He's stupid, and I can't work with him.
He's not a team player.
He's not a team player. So people work differently, and that's magical. We need to let people work the way they want to work. And, what Kyle said is that if you have two people who work well together, they can be very effective. You know, people have to have agency. Don't force them. Don't say, oh, if you don't like TDD or you don't like pairing, then you're stupid and you don't know how to do things. No, we should say, if you like that, that's great. Let's find someone like you, find the right circumstances for you. And if someone wants to work differently, and say, that's great. You're weird, but we love weird. Let's find, there was a guy on a team that I was working with, and he was somewhat fairly autistic, and I think we're all autistic in some spectrum. It's not like, oh, they're autistic and they're not, but he was evidently very, and he wanted to write test code, and he didn't want to work with anybody. And he was magnificent at it. And he could do it all day long. And he loved it. So, people vary. And that's a good thing. We're not all the same.
So there's an agile coach thing. I'm not disagreeing with Cliff. I know how to write code the way Cliff is talking about, and I bet I would have fun writing with Cliff that way.
I thought so, because you studied math, so I'm not surprised.
One of the complaints you get in old grumpy programmers like me talking about the new kids is they come out and they don't have any design. What happens is you say, here's a problem, and it's less than 15 seconds before they're doing a Google search trying to find a solution.
Exactly.
Like, legitimately, we haven't clarified the problem yet.
Right.
And there's a Google search trying to find code that we can copy paste in that would go somewhere. Cliff and I, and most all of the ensemble mob pair people, we all come from the world of, look, designing code that does actually what you want is a lot better than blindly copying the first thing you found when you Googled and Stack Overflow gave you a result, right? So in practice, even though Cliff and I might have arguments about the details of pairing and mobbing and when and how it's appropriate, right? The fact is, we are both coming from, as are everybody in the craftsmanship movement, like literally everybody. We're all coming from the, no, design matters. Thinking about what we're trying to do with the code matters. Doing some analysis matters. And there's a range of opinions there. And there's the crazy evolutionary design TDD people where I live a lot of the time. And it goes all the way over to Cliff's position of, I don't need to actually write the code. I can actually pseudocode the whole thing as a thought process before I touch any real code keyboard. And the domain-driven design people frequently live somewhere in the middle, right? And if you listen to like James Copeland, he's really articulate about an intermediate spot between what Cliff is talking about and what the Kent Beck purist TDD thing, where I live a lot of the time, right? So there's this big range. But the fact is, all of us are way over in the corner of, no. Design matters in code. Whereas the vast majority, 75% of the industry is, what can I copy that works fastest? And recognizing how much Cliff and I are arguing over angels on the head of a pin compared to the industry is a really important thing to stay aware of. Right? We're arguing about the details about how to do good design, not about how important good design is, where we disagree with the industry.
Yeah.
So putting that in there, you mentioned something about you had a let's say, less experienced or a junior coder, what do you think our lovely friend George Paul Thomas and the generative language models building code like that? What do you think the impact of that? What have you seen actually? What have you seen so far in terms of the AI generated code in what you do?
I got an answer.
Go ahead.
I have seen experts use LLMs to build code faster. Cliff can take his written design that's thought through, and he can put that kind of written design into an LLM, and it can spit out the code. I can go in and say, hey, LLM, Chatty, I always call ChatGPT Chatty. Hey, Chatty, I want a unit test that does this. Chatty will spit out a unit test that's usually good because I'm precise enough and I know what unit test to build. And then I say, hey, Chatty, here's the unit test we just built. I need code that implements that. And Chatty will do that. And then I say, hey, Chatty, I need a unit test that does this. And if I go small stepping my way through, I can rock a design faster because Chatty will do the stupid stuff. Right? When you say, hey, Chatty, build the code, it's crap. Right? So experts can, like everything else I've seen with ChatGPT, an expert who knows what they're doing can leverage the LLMs to do what they were already going to do faster, better, with brief inspection. And a noob will ask Chatty to do something and it will do the wrong thing.
well, therein lies the danger, because we have then there will be a generation of young coders who will come up without the kind of expertise and context that the two of you have, and they may use Chatty as they would use Stack Overflow, or if they're coming out of code, all that kind of stuff. But then I would say it is the responsibility of those of us who have a few decades on them to guide them through, to show compassion for them, and acknowledge the energy that they have to create with us. Again, if we can teach how do we as elders invite the craftsmanship and the artistry, as opposed to the just give me the code, Jimmy, give me the code. I want to play in the feature factory or whatever.
So I blame it on college, right? Cliff, I can tell, is of an age near mine, and everybody who's a programmer of our age learned to write code because we liked it. 100%. Folks who learned to write code in 2000, right, which is a few years after when we may have, there was money involved in learning to write code. I didn't learn to write code because there was money involved. I learned to write code because, isn't this cool?
Yeah.
Right? And learning because you have a passion for something is a very, very different model. And that's actually where this conversation started, is because Cliff reminded me partly of that massive, important insight, is the passion, the goal of learning, the let's go explore, let's figure it out. That's necessary, right? If you learn to code because your college professor said, finish this project on this date, it's a very different model than, hey, what's good? Hey, I'm going to come back to that 3 months later and try and make it a little better.
Yeah.
Right? Those aren't the same problem. They aren't related problems.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a sublime feeling when it comes together, when something works. Um, yeah, I agree. For me, it was, I don't know why I learned, but when I was 16 or 15 or something, I just got access to a computer and I just, you know, learned from there. But, with the LLMs, I don't trust them yet. Like I want to make sure that there isn't some hidden issue, and I can't feel confident unless I understand the design and understand the implementation. So I still want to translate it myself, even though, GPT-4 could probably do it very quickly. I want to go through it so it's in my head, so the understanding's in my head. I've tried using GPT-4 to do things like design an airplane wing, and it couldn't do it. So it's not there yet. It will get there, but it's not there yet. And so I just don't trust it. Can it speed some things up? Like, Kyle mentioned, some things that are kind of not critical. Yeah. But, for the main stuff, I don't trust it yet. But I do imagine that, a day will come when we'll say, like, give it problems like, how could I, what material should we use for, for the gasket interfacing these two parts in this rocket engine, and it probably would come up with some really good ideas. And then you could say, well, take this design and substitute that in and design what changes we need. And it could probably do that, so, that day's coming.
But it's not here yet, like Cliff
No.
said. Right now, what the LLMs seem to be good at is accelerating the work of experts who can look at what they're producing and check correctness and say, no, you did that wrong. Like, I have found ChatGPT really good at putting out a 10-page document to explain something that I would have had to otherwise write. And so it will write the 10-page document and I can read it and I go, no, this section is wrong. Fix it so it says this kind of thing. And it will output the text. It's great at that so long as I know what it should say so that when it's wrong, I can fix it.
Yes.
That's what ChatGPT's current skill is. It's a effort shortener for experts. Primarily.
Another thing that it's good at that's kind of a tangential thing is, when I do internet searches now, like we all do internet searches, and there's so much garbage, promoted sponsors, promoted stuff. And like, if you search for anything, and if there happens to be a rock band with the same name, you won't find the thing you're looking for. Like, just take the name of some rock band. Like, I'll just take an obvious, Beatles. Look up Beatle, the word Beatle. Good luck. You'll get page after page of all their music history and everything. It'd be very hard to find something on actual Beatles, because you have all this, because it's all ranked based on interest rather than on relevance, and so, but I've discovered that with GPT-4, I can go to that and I can ask it what I want to know, and it will give me a really intelligent summary. And then I can use that to look up specific things.
Again, it's a tool being used for experts. It's never the end. It's usually an intermediate step between thinking, then using GPT, and then using the output of GPT to either check it or to expand upon it.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm trying, of course, you know what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to think of a musical analogy here. It is much like what happened with the acoustic guitar. acoustic gut string guitars, and that folks developed mastery of plucking 6 strings with fretboard and those kinds of things. And then Les Paul comes along,
Well, actually, there was someone
and Leo
before him.
Fender.
But go ahead. Yeah.
Leo Fender, Les Paul. Okay, so
No, there was the 1930s.
Charlie Christian. I know Charlie Christian came along. I'm going to go back there.
Okay.
So Cliff is correcting me on music. Everybody, this is a recording thing. But this is learning a new instrument. This is the electrification of the 6-string acoustic guitar allowed so many different kinds of musics to come up, and different combinations, and amplification, and large concerts, and sharing more music with more people. So it was the experts who learned how to utilize that tool properly. Now, I don't know what the analog is for that. For if we can, maybe I'm it's a false equivalency, but it seems like that we now have examples of artistry.
It's like the theremin. When the theremin was invented, a whole new genre of music.
Mm-hmm.
It
became
electronic music. You know what movie electronic music was used in first? The very first movie that had electronically generated music.
I'm going to guess Metropolis.
No, it wasn't. That was very early. It was The Forbidden Planet. And they built analog circuits to create the sounds.
Mm-hmm. and then it came to the Moog, and then
exactly,
then the analog and the patch cables became patches on the keyboard, and making it easier to do that, and the pedals, and again making new music. I wonder what the craftsmen of today, such as yourselves, are going to be doing with these things, like you're talking about, that welcoming them into your practice as new instruments.
We'll be sitting back and say, do this. No, do that.
the Lords sitting on
that.
the mountain.
Well, people won't have to know anything. So, yeah, I like that. No, make the airplane different. Make it more cushy.
I want to call something out, though, right? What was probably, and Cliff will probably correct me on this one too, what was the first effort that we saw to make it so like people could talk to computers rather than having to make it programmers tinkering with the details of computers?
Well, there was a Superman episode back in the 60s when it was a black and white show, and it showed they had a big room-sized computer, and these criminals basically forced the computer person, the scientist, he was a scientist back then, to do crime for them. And he would tell the computer, he would speak to a microphone and tell the computer, okay, they're going to rob this bank, and find the exact time when all the traffic lights will be green so the getaway car can get away and escape before the police come. And that was like a Superman show, and then there was the Forbin Project, which I think was in the 70s, where they also spoke to the computer.
So I want to call out, as far as I've been able to tell, COBOL was an effort to do exactly this thing. It was an effort to make it so business people, instead of weird programmer types like me or Cliff, had to talk to the computer. And guess what? We got COBOL programmers out of that.
And sysadmins and system programmers, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I have been highly suspicious of the skill, the ability to go to, you don't need a programmer, from COBOL in the 60s that I wasn't even really around for, to rules engines is the most recent play that's doing the same thing and still requiring programmers, right? And now we have LLMs. Well, guess what? You still need at least for another year, 2, 5, 10, the person who understands enough about and can break the problem into the right kind of problem. Now, maybe at some point we'll beat that, but we've been trying since literally the mid 60s in COBOL to crack this problem.
Yeah.
And recognizing that every 2 years since the mid 60s, someone's come out with, oh, I can find a solution where we don't actually need good programming.
Damn it.
And now people are saying, wait, LLMs are a solution where we don't need good programmers. And I'm going,
well, this is we're kind of getting. I'm going to be a little funny about that, but blaming the executives. Get rid of those damn programmers. They cost too fucking much. I got.
And they're annoying, and they don't take authority seriously. And there's all sorts of weird stuff about programmers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think those attempts were all, using what we had, and they were all based on the assumption that you could reduce it, decompose it to a deterministic problem, and it's not. It's what today people call a complex problem, and it takes judgment, and there's no equation for solving the problem. How should this app work? It's not. You can't describe it as an optimization, and so that means that you have to have actual understanding. You have to have actual cognitive model of what you're trying to do and understand the goal and understand the environment it has to work in. You have to understand the big picture, not a linear view. You have to understand the holistic view. And that requires actual intelligence. So we can't solve the problem without humans until we have non-human things that have actual intelligence, and so when will that be? Well, it seems to be on the horizon, but we're not there yet.
Well, I mean, this is maybe this is a Luddite perspective too. It's fake intelligence.
No, I don't think so. No,
well,
it's not.
But do human beings understand what's going on inside the human brain well enough to say that this is intelligence, this is not, or this is what consciousness is, or this is what life is, this is what a living experience is? I would say not.
Well, consciousness and intelligence are two separate things.
But that's true. That's true. Because then consciousness is the harder problem, because some folks tend to treat these things as if they are therapeutic human beings, or the artificial therapists. I don't know if you've heard about that.
Yeah.
That they're trying to automate coaching and therapy.
That's 30 years old.
Well, man.
Yeah, right. It is. Yeah. But you don't need consciousness. Intelligence does not require consciousness.
So I'm going to go play math for a minute, because if Ryan gets to go to music every chance he gets, I'm going to go to math. I grew up and I did math contests, and I was good. I won state level math contests.
Wow.
In California, right? So not a little state either, right? So
I thought you were qualifying that negatively, but okay.
Right? I was also a horrible little geek, so we can balance that a little bit. I won math contests. And you know how I won math contests? I figured out stuff that nobody was teaching. People would say, hey, here's a problem, figure it out. And my excess number of hours tinkering and playing with numbers let me see things that other people who didn't have the hours saw. Training? Yeah, somebody came in and talked for 20 minutes on what probability distributions were. And then I had to learn the rest of it and make sense of it and use it to optimize my D&D characters, right? So,
yeah,
right? But I spent enough time playing with math to figure things out. Do you know what math contests look like right now? The fact is, we've codified the details of the types of problems that come up. And so it's not some smart little kid trying to solve a problem that these people have never seen something like it before, relying on math experience. What's happened is we have a group of people, and I know some of the people who are experts in this space, where we've said, hey, for this category of problem, there's a whole branch of math theory that addresses this. So we're going to teach it to you as fourth graders. And so modern math contests of 2020, are people who have been trained on specific skills in math contest behavior, rather than generalists looking for connections.
Sounds like an agile framework.
Matthew Crawford is my friend, who is brilliant and has codified a learning method for math contesting. But you have to recognize how much of a shift it is from we are expecting general intelligence and fluency with numbers to, of course, you've seen these 75 different techniques, and I expect you to pick the one that works best in this context. That's a different kind of contest than the one I participated in the 80s.
So is that good or bad?
It's an evolution of what we mean by intelligence. Right now, we are approaching math contest from a set of semi-defined algorithms, as opposed to a generic search from general intelligence and vague knowledge. That's a transition similar to what's happened in chess. As the computer algorithms get better, because they're searching better defined spaces, right? And so what Cliff's talking about is, a lot of the time when we don't understand a domain well enough, we leave it for general intelligence and some amount of flailing about to find good solutions. And over time, every domain I've seen moves away from needing general intelligence towards needing technical skill and mastery of these 75 techniques.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like group theory, in that it categorized, whole classes of problems. Yeah. Interesting.
Right? And so when you're talking intelligence, what makes a good math contest person from 20 years ago, 40 years ago, versus what makes a good math person today are different. 40 years ago, you needed intuition. You needed math intuition.
I think we romanticize human intelligence. Human intelligence is amazing, but it is reducible to a set of processes, because, in our mind, we have patterns based on the connections of our neurons. And when we see new information, we look for differences and we try to fit it into the patterns that we have, and then if it doesn't fit, we adjust our patterns and then we try them and see if they're predictive. And if they're predictive, then we cement that and realize now we have a better understanding. And, that's a process. There's no reason why a machine can't do that too. Our mind is a machine, and that process does not require consciousness. And there's a lot of evidence that, and this is not conclusive, but the evidence seems to lean toward the fact that our consciousness actually occurs a moment after our thought.
I am an enormous fan of that. My favorite books on the topic are Robin Hanson and Kevin Simler. They wrote The Elephant in the Brain. And the other one is Robert Kurzban, his book, Everyone Else is a Hypocrite. Right?
I love the title.
Those two books are really powerful in terms of pointing out the extent to which facts that we know. When you feel something, the feeling appears on your face before it gets to your conscious mind. It is why masking emotion is why poker players wear as much face covering as they can, right? Sunglasses and everything. It's because the emotion happens somewhere and it reaches expressions on your face before you are personally aware, before it reaches the frontal lobes where you have consciousness of what's going on. Yeah. Emotions hit your face before they hit your consciousness.
And the implication of that is that consciousness is superfluous, that it doesn't, I mean, I'm glad we have it. I'm very glad we have it, but it doesn't serve any actual functional purpose. We actually don't need it.
Do you read fiction? Have you read Charles Stross's Accelerando?
No.
At the end of his Accelerando book, he tinkers with that notion where he brings it up seriously. It's a fun idea. It's kind of a weird, it's a semi-singularitarian. He's trying to do what like the first Immortal did in terms of trying to emotionalize the motion towards the singularity, right? Where what does it mean to go past these how we think things are? And there's 2 or 3 things in there that are really powerful for, now I read it like 10 years ago, so I'm trying to remember all the details, but how are we conceptualizing? How will it feel as these things change over years or decades?
I'm not sure I want to know.
but it's interesting.
I'm finding it hard to find the words to say how vehemently I disagree with both of you.
Well, you know, the seminal work on this, I think, goes back, I don't remember the books anymore, but there's a term, philosophical zombie. You know, which describes, a lot of was written on this in the late 90s. And, you know, the idea of a philosophical zombie is someone who thinks but has no consciousness.
Yeah, it goes back before that to the Chinese room discussion, right?
I don't know that.
Yeah. The Chinese room is the theory that what happens if you have a room and you have a translator in the room and you feed in an English word and it spits out a word in Chinese? How much consciousness is there in the room? If the room's closed, you don't know. Is it a person in there doing the translation or is it a machine?
On that note, I have a team meeting at 1. It's 1 my time.
Oh my goodness. I think that's a great place to leave it. This is wonderful. Cliff, Kyle, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful discussion.
It was fun. Yeah.
I'm thrilled to talk with you, Ryan. I'm thrilled to meet Cliff face to face.
It's good to finally meet you, Kyle, in like live.
That you have never met live?
I think you're alive. Wait, is Kyle
real? Hey man, that's the mystery. That is the mystery, the sacred mystery of the human spirit where we are. So I am going to go hang out in my little place in the Purple Squirrel Cafe. I'm going to give you a link to that. It's bit.ly /Purple Squirrel Cafe. If any of you out there who are seeing this, I think there's 6 of you on LinkedIn. If you want to do that, come hang out over there. It may be an interesting experience for you. And It's just so awesome. Cliff, I hope we get a chance to do this again. Kyle, I know we will. And if there are folks who either of you or anyone who may be watching this want to see in this kind of configuration, please let one of us know. So, all right, man. See you both. I'm going to put you in the background and say something to those of you out there. Thanks to you who are watching, listening, and being with us here today. Again, show us what you want to see in the future. I would say I love you, but boy, wouldn't that be weird?